Kids, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He's an attorney, CFP, as well as wealth strategist, none other than Mr. Matthew Meredith.
Hello, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Mr. Matthew. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I must?
Definitely. So I am Matt Meredith. I am both an attorney. I'm a certified financial planner as well. My background was wealth management, and I decided to go to law school here in 2018 to add tax and estate planning. And so today, I'm the founder of Meridian Legal Advisors here in Texas. We help families and business owners protect what they built. A lot of people, they run around to a financial planner, they run around to a lawyer, a tax person. Well, the goal of Meridian is to bring it all under one roof and have it as a true one-stop shop. The advantages of this is giving you no juggling advice. There's no price competition, no time. It's all trusted advisors under one roof, making it easier for you. And so that's the goal for you, Daniel.
Yes, and looking for that goal. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. And today, let's talk about the hidden lawsuit, how to protect your wealth before it's too late, of course. And tell us, you
Yep.
suggest lawsuits are hidden risks. Why do so many successful individuals and business owners have false sense of security, believing I'm not suing type or I will never happen to me?
Fantastic question. I think it's our culture here in the United States. It's somehow along the way it became okay to sue for just about everything. I was recently in Mexico. That's where my wife is from, so we were visiting family, and I watched somebody get hit by a car, and he just got up and walked away. That was it of it. And I sat down like, this is phenomenal. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And that's not what happens here. And of course, I started comparing it to what happens here. What happens here is I'm going to sue you and I'm going to take everything from you. And
Yes.
it's nothing personal. And I didn't understand it as I do now until I became an attorney and I started doing litigation. I started realizing that when people mess up, their assets are up for grab. There's vital consequences that happen, and the goal becomes, how do you protect from this? How do we not have this as a problem? And so that's really kind of what it is. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'll never get sued." It's a lot like health insurance. I look at is, you may never get sued, but what happens if you do get sued? And I'm not talking about the guy who accidentally blows up a building one day because he crossed a red wire with the green wire. Oops. I'm talking about the guy who just hit somebody in their car on the way home. Or I've seen it also happen where a guy at a bar, defends his wife from a drunk guy, punches the guy, and then he gets sued. It's much like insurance, and we hope we never need it, but we are in the United States, and this happens quite common.
We think of a lawsuit in terms of a judgment, but you talk about it's being hidden. Can you walk us through the cascade of their costs beyond the settlement that can devastate wealth?
Sure. And so, a lot of asset protection, a lot of the things we do, it's to, I wouldn't call it hide assets because you can't really hide assets from the court, but you can hide assets from other people who would be interested in suing you. And so when you're looking at setting things up, depending on the route you're going, are you setting up through LLCs? Are you setting up through trusts? What route are you going? A lot of the build out is let's create anonymity in the structures to make it more difficult for people to figure out. And so it starts with simple things like owning LLCs through trust because trusts are private. And so now you have an LLC, it's owned by a trust. You really don't know who owns it. And it costs all this money now to figure out who actually owns this because I don't know if it's a beauty of the American court or a problem, but without notice, you can't sue somebody. And so it's all about, making it harder for these lawsuits to come forward.
Interesting, interesting indeed. So, what does someone even begin if you were create a wealth protection hierarchy? What is the absolute non-negotiable foundational step everyone must take before anything else?
I think it's to have the awakening conversation. So let's say you have assets. The question becomes how are you protecting yourself? If you don't have many assets, my dad always joked you can't get blood from a turnip. And I find that to be very pertinent in life. And so that's a real thing. So it becomes let's have a conversation about what you do have. Let's take a look at what your real risks are, and then let's start moving things out. So here's a perfect example. So my background, I've been in the wealth management industry. I've worked with JP Morgan, Capital One, LPL Financial, managing investment accounts. One of my first experiences when I got into advising was I had a client who was retiring and basically retired, loved it, would come by from time to time and just talk with me. One day he hits a car full of people and they ended up suing him. It was something he never expected. And what they did was they came in with a judgment creditor or judgment lien, and they took that account. And so I was no longer in control of that account. He was no longer in control of that account. And so it's things like this. What do you have out there that you need to be worried about, that you need to protect? A lot of the goal is let's get it out of your name, and that will protect you in certain cases from there. But I think it always comes down to, sit down and have that conversation with somebody who looks at it through the lens of if I'm coming to get it, where is it and how do I get it?
There's so much confusion between LLCs, trust, and umbrella insurance. In simple terms, what is the primary job of each, and how do they work together as a layered defense system?
So umbrella insurance is important. I preach to people all the time. What do you mean you don't have umbrella insurance? Get yourself some umbrella insurance. It's so cheap. I think we've all been told to say that. And it's there to take care of problems that come up. When you're looking at asset protection, what you're doing is you're mostly moving it out of your name. So now if you sue me as the individual, I don't have this in my name. So you can't really get to it because it's its own company. It runs on its own rules. It has its own EIN. It does its whole thing separate from me. I may happen to, be a member or a manager of it, but it's still separate. So you can't really grab a hold of it unless there's, commingling or people are breaking the laws. There's some ways that people can get into them, but not if you follow the correct rules. And so that's where the kind of the LLC works using trust. So you've got revocable trust, you've got irrevocable trust. Irrevocable trust, typically, much like an LLC, it'll take it out of your name. So you'll have things like South Dakota Trust, Delaware Trust. These are all familiar types of trusts, but there's catches with these type of things. Typically, there's waiting periods, and so I always talk about, the state and gift tax. We talk about Medicaid. There's waiting periods on everything. And typically irrevocable trusts are like that as well. If I put something into, say, a South Dakota trust, there's a 2-year wait. So if this is something I'm worried about, I may not want to go into that type of component. So it's all kind of juggling what's going on at that point in time. Ultimately, all of these are used together. And typically what we'll use, the other type of trust for, the revocable trust, is for anonymity purposes. Because again, if I go and register a business in my name in Texas at the Secretary of State's office, it shows up right there. It'll say Matthew Meredith, owner of this company. Well, that's a pretty easy way to figure out who I'm suing. So I don't want my name on the company. And so what I'll do instead is let's say I have we'll use Meridian Legal Advisors. I'll have Meridian Legal Trust as the manager of Meridian Legal Advisors LLC. And the purpose of this is to create that anonymity because I don't know who the beneficial owner is. I just know there's a trustee and there's a trust. And so it's really kind of you use all of these things together. Your umbrella policy is that first little I get a jump, there's a bounce. Hopefully there's nothing more. I use the image of in an airplane. Oh, that umbrella is that safety belt. But then if that door rips open, you better have a parachute. And so your parachute will come down from using different types of trust and LLCs together to protect yourself.
Mr. Matthew, you talk about building a fortress, not just a putting up a fence. What is a critical defense between merely owning these structures?
Can you rephrase that one more time for me?
Yes, you talk about fortress, not just putting up a fence. So, what are the critical defense between merely owning of these structures like LLC and trust, insurance, to funding and maintaining them so they hold up in court?
Correct. So keeping them compliant. So that's always a very important thing. Typically, when you're creating LLCs, for example, in Texas, we have franchise tax that you have to do. You have annual reporting for these franchise taxes. You have to have a resident agent who can receive mail. And so if it's not anonymous, you can be this person. And so when you look at, if I just want protection. So you create like a holding company, a typical holding company. Maybe it's a Wyoming LLC at the top, and you break down to like a Texas LLC for real estate or something else below it. You're having to do an annual reporting. You can't move money between the companies very easily because then you'd be commingling. So you have to have kind of books and records done. So you have to do your taxes. So a lot of the things that you would do if you owned a regular business that is legitimate, it is your business, it's the exact same thing. So every year, kind of, if it's an anonymous type of company, so you own it through a trust, somebody else has to report it for you. So that's kind of where we come in with our business compliance. We'll do the reporting, we'll do the resident agent services, and it's all to keep you off the books. And then if there is a problem, what happens is, somebody sues you, they reach out to the resident agent. That's typically going to be me or one of the companies we're using. And that's where, we go from that point as far as if there's a lawsuit or something. But as far as maintaining, it's not very difficult. I joke that I have a tax company, a brokerage company, I have two law firms, I have all these companies, and it takes me maybe 3 hours at most once a year to do all my filings. It's very easy in most states to stay compliant.
Interesting, Mr. Matthew. Totally interesting. And tell us, as an attorney, CFP, as well as wealth strategies, what are your short term and long term goals?
The goals I find change rapidly because I like to achieve a goal. I've always been a goal setter. My goal became let's go to law school because I wanted as I tell people, I was working the financial advisory and I would give tax thoughts, legal thoughts, and they kept saying, "Hey, you're not a lawyer. Don't give estate planning advice. You're not a CPA. Don't give tax advice." And to me, the thought was, well, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be amazing if the client could come into one spot and have tax advice, have legal advice, have asset protection worked out for them to protect them in other ways, to have, financial planning done, all done by people who aren't really competing. And to me, this was the vision I had. And so it became, how do I put this into action? So the goal became, well, we're going to go to law school. We're going to create this. And so that has really been the goal over the last 7, 8 years, was getting to the point where I can build out this company, bring people in who are, not just good at what they do, but the best that I can find out there to come help me run this type of stuff. And so that's kind of the short term goal at this point is getting it really up and running. The long term goal is changing the industry. I really feel that the way the industry is now, it's not cohesive for people. For me to have to go see my CPA, go see my lawyer, go see my financial planner, and they're all just banging their chest saying, I'm the best. And I always joked with my clients, the lawyer I would refer to people was not somebody that I really liked. It was just a lawyer that I knew when I was doing heavy advising. And so it's not always the best advice coming because you don't know all the sources. And so the goal, the next several years of the life is to really kind of build this out and try to change the industry a little.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Matthew, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
It comes down to knowing what you can and can't do. And I think that becomes the issue is for me, a lot of my stuff was I understood what I was doing. I understood the financial advisory role very well. I was successful doing it, but I wanted more. I wanted to do something more. And a lot of times when we have the idea of, hey, I want to do something more, it's usually, going against the grain. And so when you do that, it's never this happy feeling. Like there's always a challenge. There's always like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, let me tell you, my tax classes, I took like 8 tax law classes. And there were times that I was just like, what did I do? Like, this is terrible idea. I should have just gone taking an easy job. And the key to it is you push through it, you persevere, and then you come out and you look back at it and it's like, wow, I did what I wanted to do. And this is a fantastic victory. I've accomplished the goal. And so that's my advice. Figure out what you want, write it down, and go get it.
Write it down, people, and stop procrastinating. If you have the passion of something, please share to the world. So, Mr. Matthew, thank you for that advice. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Definitely. So my book for you is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Are you familiar with this one?
Yes, sir. It
Okay, most
something
people
again.
are. And with it is, the young guy Santiago, he is a shepherd. He's comfortable in Spain, sitting under a tree. He has this vision, and the vision tells him to go to Egypt. He'll find treasure. And so he thinks that, that this could mean something. He goes, talks to a gypsy who says, hey, I'm a fortune teller. You've got to go do this. This is your destiny. So he takes off, sells everything he has, and goes on this new goal in life, this new mission, and immediately gets robbed and loses everything. And then at that point, he has to decide, do I continue moving forward? This is the goal. This is my dream. Do I continue moving forward or do I give up? And of course, he continues because if not, it's a very short story. And he goes and he meets a bunch of people. He ultimately meets an alchemist who, the whole alchemy was turned lead to gold. And I don't want to ruin the story for anybody who hasn't read it, but
Spoilers.
it's such a parallel I feel with my feelings about what I've done is because there I was sitting comfortably under my tree and it's like, oh yeah, let's go change something up, let's see what else we can do to make things different. And I go off, and the beauty of the alchemist is it's never about changing lead to gold. It's about the experience that you gain along the way. It's the journey. And to me, that's why I like the book so much because you know where the treasure was. The treasure wasn't in Egypt. And that to me is, he would have never known that unless he went on his journey.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Matthew. And if you could have every listener or viewers do one thing within the next 48 hours to start protecting their wealth, what would it be?
I think it comes back down to understanding what you have. Much like we talk about goal setting, writing out what your goal is, it's take an inventory of what you have. Take an inventory of what you don't want to lose. A lot of people we were talking earlier, they just have brokerage accounts. They have a lot of significant money in brokerage accounts. It's in their names. And if they get sued, they could lose it. So look at the things that you have, look at what you want to do to protect it. And if you're interested in protecting these things, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you about, hey, how can we help? Do you really need to protect it? Are there other ways around it? And then on top of that, do you need help with, estate planning? Do you need tax advice as well? We do all this under the same roof.
Mr. Math, how does someone find a qualified professional like you to help them with this? What are the
Well,
specific questions they should ask potential attorney to ensure they're getting the expert advice, not just a generic plan?
for example, estate planning, which is a big part of my background, a lot of lawyers can do estate planning. A lot of them can easily do it for you, but it's very, in my opinion, cookie cutter. Now, if you're doing something where you're building businesses, and these businesses are not just, to make money, but they're also to protect assets, you need to know what's going to happen to these businesses if you die. Is your wife able to take it on? I've got a law firm, so my wife can't actually come in and take over that business because she's not a lawyer. So I need to know, okay, how can this be controlled? And so it becomes things like this where is the professional you're talking to used to building out estate plans for people that have, businesses and are interested in asset protection? When it comes to tax advice, I've done some US tax court. I give actual tax advice. It's more than the accounting aspects. So when you're talking to somebody about your taxes, are you interested in, as I put it on the website, the history? Are you interested in writing the future? Do you want to know ways that you can come in here and save money on taxes and do things that are more than just accounting? And I really think it's up to you to know, how much involvement do you want to get? Do you want to be able to have somebody who really understands this stuff, or do you just need something quick because if you die, you don't want to half your house going to dead, half the house going to your wife, like you're here in Texas. So you need something done. And so it always comes down to is what do you as the person, the client want, and can the person you're talking to give you what you need?
Mr. Matthew, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast law 101 and mental health 101, love letters in third season, and movie 101 review and music 101 fourth season and science 101 and sex 101 and its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Matthew, tell us beyond the financials, what is the often overlooked benefit of having a robust plan in place? Is it the freedom to take business risks, the ability to sleep at night, or the legacy security for your family?
It's all of it. And when I look at, the advantages that I've gained from doing it, I know my wife will be taken care of. I know that, hey, let's say something goes wrong and we're sued, we still have assets that are protected out there. Um, to know that I'm doing the right thing when it comes to taxes and things like that. I'm a tax lawyer. I hate paying more taxes than I have to, and so it's important to me to know that things are good. But it's also, just to mark it off the box to know that it's taken care of. A lot of people they go back and forth. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. I'll let my family deal with it when I die. I won't be here. And to me, I have dealt with so many clients who that's what's happened, and they're lost. They're spending all this money trying to fix things up, and it's just a total mess when it all could have very simply been handled. And so I think it comes down to you do it because it makes everything smoother.
Indeed. And would you be my guest on Law 101? And let's talk about your expertise over there, Mr. Matthew.
I would love to.
Please do. And law tax protection all in one. Can you explain to us this phrase on your website?
Definitely. So we are law. I'm a lawyer. I've done probate administration. As I've mentioned, I do a lot of estate planning, trust building. I'm a tax attorney, so I have CPAs that work with me. We do tax, not just accounting, but we do advising. Protection gets into the asset protection we're talking about, how to protect yourselves from that hidden lawsuit that nobody expects, but can take a chunk out of your retirement, a chunk out of your business. All in one is it's just the one-stop shop. I've been wanting a one-stop shops because my clients kept complaining to me. They're tired of coming to see me, then their tax guy, and then their lawyer. And man, they would be happy as could be if they could do it in one spot. And so that's what I've
Yes.
built for them, Daniel.
Like three in one, for sure. So, Mr. Matthew, how would Mr. Elon Musk protect his trillion wealth?
Well, Elon's got a much bigger problem than I can probably help him with. Elon's got tax issues that he's got to move things out of his estates. And so when you're getting into massive wealth like that, you're getting into, dynasty trust, you're using a lot of entities and things like that. It's similar to what we do, but it's on a much larger scale. I don't have the patience to calculate his taxes.
Trillion wealth. Imagine, Mr. Matthew Meredith. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, definitely. We're at Meridian Legal Advisors. It's meridianlg.com. You can check us out there. We've got phone numbers, we've got emails. Come talk to me if you have issues that you need, you know, to understand. Do I need protection, or you need estate planning that goes with that type of protection, and you need help with your taxes? That's what we're here for. We're happy to work with anybody. Give us a call.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Matthew Meredith because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering. Well, law tax protection all in one to come. So, Mr. Matthew, thank you so much for your time.
Definitely. And Daniel, just to add, so I grabbed Chinese food today because my wife was working from home and she said I want Chinese. And so I got my fortune cookie. And my
Oh, what is
fortune
that?
cookie is very pertinent. We're talking about the signs, the alchemists and things like that. It says, turn off the TV and the computer and exercise your mind with a good book. And that, my friend, is for you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that inspirational message, indeed. So, people, more to come. See you soon.